everyone, it's Jill, and I'm currently editing part 2 of the Alexandra Kurland Clinic. Look like hot garbo. I wanted to jump in here because it just sort of starts really abruptly. I just kind of wanted to explain what's going to be happening. For more info on this, like in more depth, you can check out my podcast because I talked about this like segment of the clinic at length. So check out Equine in Theory on your favorite podcast listening app, available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can listen to podcasts. So essentially what we're doing is demonstrating that when you have your hands like really tight around the lead rope, you can't feel someone slide down it. But if you have like, you're holding a baby bird, when somebody slides, they don't get very far before you're like, I feel that. And the metaphor is to move it to the horses. You know, if you're tense, moving around tense, and the horses get tense and you can't hear each other, and then all of a sudden you're just screaming, and it can get dangerous. And then Alex starts to explain that if the horse gets used to you like yanking around or just grabbing abruptly, even if you're not trying to, but if that's how it comes across, then the horse starts attempting to block you, by it be a bite or a nudge or a lip in the direction or a threat, you know, and so it can get dangerous. You know, sometimes you can read that as play or just like, oh, he's mouthy or he's being disrespectful, but if he's had this history of like being grabbed around and jerked around, he's like, hey, stop that, don't do that. I like the concept. So anyway, there's a whole segment on rope handling. I do apologize about the wind noise. Nothing I can do about that. I don't have a microphone. So, yeah, enjoy the rest of the video. I might have to pop in periodically and explain some things, but yeah. So she's holding it tight.
Everybody who ever handles a lead rope.
Yeah, I'm here.
And you don't feel it till late because the tension blocks the feeling.
Like magic or just sliding through. I'm not, going like that, but I'm just sliding it through my hand, and you can't even feel the slide.
Because her hands are so tense.
Yeah, hold it as though you're holding a little bird.
They need. This is why it's important to me not only that the horses are relaxed, but that the handlers are relaxed. Because if the handler is tight, they can't hear the horse.
And if the horse is tight, they can't hear the handler.
And so you end up shouting at one another, and when horses and handlers are shouting at one another, it's not pretty.
Come down, really assertive, like throws you off. But if I come down and I set up, and then I say, let's step back, that feels more like an invitation. If I say, and now let's come forward, there's a difference. Even though from someone looking from the outside, it probably looks the same.
It feels completely different.
Completely different to you, and I guarantee you it feels completely different to the horses. So if I just kind of come on Sunny, right? Or if I come on Sunny, exactly. But if I go like this and I say, shall we? You can feel me coming down the lead rope.
I know it's coming.
You know something's coming, so you have a moment to kind of go, we're going to do something. I've moved my foot out. I've got my body going like this.
Motion's already going.
And as soon as I see you start to go, I release. And then we walk off together.
Good. And whenever you're ready, you'll stare. And I would click that because that was exactly right, and it was sticky before. It's fine to say to her, now that's clickable, because that was a good response. Now here you have to decide in this orientation, now you better slide up because you know she's going to look to the outside, and as she ask again, and click that because she joins you. So that's clickable. Float your right hand towards her rather than, because your elbow wants to pull back. That's that backwards traction sneaking itself in.
It's morning time. You know what that means. What? What are you doing, chicker dicky? You smile. What about you? You've got mud on your nose.
Different and much more pleasant energy.
Yes.
So it's not just train.
He's focusing more on you.
It's not just train where you cannot, where you can't. It's train when you can.
Yes, I guess so.
So grown-ups until you're ready to walk off. Yeah. There you go. And on this side, when you're doing your grown-up, so keep your rope in your left hand and you put this hand over. And when you're ready, go ahead and slide to walk off. Good. There, that was nice. There you go. Ready, slide. Good. Nice timing.
I saw her rock back.
Yeah, that was fancy.
Yeah, well, because the last time I slid up the rope, she got backed up, and
So she's starting to put that little bit in there, which is great.
that the rope beat.
There you go.
I'm just going to use you as my guide.
Oh,
You go
okay.
where you need
All right.
to go.
Good. And then, yes. And when you're ready. So we want to give her plenty of warning that your body language warning that you're going to be stopping.
So the difference is,
Good. And I like that you're taking a step as you feed because those little changes make it really crystal clear to her what we're doing right now. Like if you're standing here and you feed and she's like, you're standing there, are you going to feed me or are you going to cue me? What are you going to do? But it's like, I step in when I feed, I do this position when I slide down the lead rope. Then it's really obvious to her and it's really clear she can rely on it. She's like, I'm chewing. There you go, good. Yep. Great. Those little tiny, those little slides, and you can just feel that subtle change in her coming back, maintaining the connection with you.
and the release is everything. So
There you go. Oh, do you feel how it's like you move the hips? Like it's almost like you're asking the hips in the saddle. There. So let her know you're turning. We're turning a little sharper. Good. Keep walking. Good. Great. Ooh, she stayed with you there, didn't she?
Her facial expression cracks me up every time I click. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can swing around too, but I'm going slowly.
Yeah. So let it there. So put the hip in. Yes. Good. Isn't it freakish how they respond to that stuff.
Because all they communicate with is body.
That's right. When there's a moment that you want to prepare to come to a halt, think about you're going to let her know with your body language that you're going to be halting. Good. Oh, that was...
She was round.
She was? She was super pretty there.
She said, oh,
Isn't that, and she's finding it with those little bits of communication on the line. She's like, oh, okay, I can shift a little something. I can shift a little something. Ooh, that felt good.
and I asked it like a half halt. And she said, oh, I'd be happy.
So there you go. Training half halts in a halter and a lead rope. Walking around a bunch of old water jugs. Good. And as you when you're home, you can explore all of this.
So we're on our way home from the clinic, and
We've been sitting for about 40 minutes.
yeah, we've been sitting here for almost an hour waiting to get past.
Oh, not good.
What?
Not good at all.
Yeah, don't take the trailer out.
Jeez. Oh my gosh, that's the...
Oh my god.
Oh, Lord.
That's the top half of the 18-wheeler. Jeez. How did that happen? He took the whole cab.
Rear-ended him.
Doodle is so happy to be home. He just took a roll. Mac, what are you doing? He says, I'm just so wondering. I might come to you, I might not. Settled in. She's going to come say hi. You were so good this weekend. First day was a little rough, but after that you were good. I just gave her dinner, so she's like, what else do you have? We had a very relationship building weekend, right honey? Well, I for one am exhausted, and I know this video probably wasn't much of an actual vlog. It's very difficult because we were doing something every moment of the day. It was like we're sitting around for breakfast and we're lecturing and talking, and then we get out the horses, and then we break for lunch, and then we get out the horses again, and then we sit around and we talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And then we get dinner, and we didn't finish till 10 o'clock every single night. So yeah, it's been a really long few days. My thoughts as far as the clinic goes are a bit of a mixed bag. I think that I learned a lot of really valuable exercises. There were some things that I was kind of like, I wouldn't do it that way. And of course, who am I to say that, like, somebody who's been doing it for this long. But I think that what clicker training has really taught me is there's a million ways to train everything, and maybe the way that we talked about this weekend was not like just for specific, like very small little moments. I was just like, maybe that's not how I would approach it with this horse, but obviously they're my horses. I know them very well. It's different when you're a clinician just coming in and being like, these are total strangers. And I have more of a relationship with them. I understand them, and I'm used to their behavior. So I don't know, but I think the biggest thing for me this weekend was the rope handling, which seems so nominal, and hopefully I included enough clips to where you can understand it, but really it's something you have to feel, because it's so different when somebody just like grabs the lead and pulls one direction. And that's how I've been leading my whole life, and I didn't think anything of it. But when you're actually holding the halter and you're being the horse, and somebody just grabs it normally, isn't trying to be abrupt and just grabs it and pulls you, you're like unsettled. But if they run their hand up the line and flex it one way or the other, you know exactly where you're going. You have a nice little cue that something is about to happen. And the biggest aha moment I had this weekend was with Zoe when and you saw the clip where I was like, ah! But where I was walking her, and what actually happened, I was leading her, and she got sort of her shoulder in front of my body, and I reached up to correct her, because that's what I'm used to doing, But instead, I slid my hand up the rope, and then bent the lead. Initially, I just reached up to, like, stop her, but then I changed it to that, and then the second she tipped her head, I released, like, instantly, and then she walked, like, 2 steps, completely round, and like looked absolutely beautiful from my perspective, and I was like, what? That's crazy. So I think that I have a lot of things that I am really interested in exploring for like under saddle work. I am interested in some of the single rein riding work that Alex does. This weekend she was talking about how she does use a lot of pressure and release, and she's not wholly positive reinforcement and whatnot different, but it's still in the same vein of not demanding that the horse do things and asking them in a different way, having them be happy to respond to it and not feel this like need to brace or to pull or to be resistant to the pressure, adversives, what have you. I have had this mentality that it's all or nothing, and you need to be all positive reinforcement, and I sort of threw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. And after this clinic, I'm not like, I'm gonna just go back to traditional training. Not at all, and that's not the point that Alex was trying to make either. But I think that negative reinforcement can be used in a way that does not create stress and frustration and anxiety and take away all of the horse's choice. Because the way that we were doing the rope handling, it was an ask. Like, if I'm holding the rope and I slide my hand down and pull it forward gently, Zoe does not have to move at all. And so I'd slide it down, and she's like, I'd be happy to move. And I never saw her ears go back. I didn't see any sort of frustration or anxiety from her. And she got kind of excited and was like, oh, what are we doing? And there was one time I slid my hand down the rope, and I bent it up and asked her to like back a step. And really all I do is kind of just like slide up and then go back, and she is happy to just like glide and float backwards. And then so the time directly after I asked her to back, I slid up and asked her to go forward. But since I slid, she was anticipating maybe a backing. And that's the great thing about the slide, is it tells the horse, I'm about to ask you something. And she was so ready to be able to back that she rocked herself back. She didn't take a step, she just rocked. And then when I asked, or I cued for forward, she just went into this beautiful coming up from behind. And this is the thing that I think is so different from traditional training, because what we did was not using escalating pressure. If she didn't walk forward, I didn't pull her, I didn't increase pressure, I wasn't like asking, demanding, telling, you know. It was just like, can you walk forward? And she was like, I'd be happy to. And that transfers really well under saddle, because they do this single rein riding thing where you have, I'm sure you've seen from the videos, that you just sort of slide down and ask and drop, and then you can transfer it to 2 reins, and you can make it look very similar to traditional riding. I think that that is going to be night and day different from Zoe, because when I lead her normally, she drags me around, she goes straight to a grass patch, and she's just a pain to walk. At liberty in the field, she's fantastic, but she's had her fill of grass. Like when I'm hand walking her, she just kind of goes everywhere. But this new way of walking, and it's so not much different from what I do already, but it's just adding a different sort of handling with the rope, and it's not as abrupt. The sliding lets the horse know something is coming without just grabbing and pulling. Even if you're trying to be light with that, it's still abrupt because the hand just grabs out of nowhere. This says, hey, I'm about to say something. They're like, oh, you've been screaming at me this whole time. Thank you for finally, like, asking politely. And I can't stress enough how, like watching it probably isn't going to tell you very much, and it's probably very easy to write off, but once you've held the halter and felt how the clasp moves and how abrupt it can be, and been moved around by someone, then you're like, oh, that's what my horse feels. But yeah, and I know that may not seem like much, but that was really the biggest thing that I got. I'm gonna make a podcast all about my experiences and my thoughts, and you know, what I thought about the clinic as a whole, and reviewing the notes that I took. But yeah, I wanted to share that a little bit at the end here, but be sure to check out the Equine in Theory podcast, since it'll go up on a Tuesday. I don't know, I had a good time. We didn't get to do as much as I thought we would do, but it still was useful. I had a good time. I think the horses had a good time, and the biggest thing for Zoe also was, we're going off property, but you're not gonna go to a show, and that's why she was so worked up the first day, and the second and third day she was like chilling like a villain. So that is the end of my video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Yeah, if I broke it up into clips, then this is the last piece. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video.